Hello and welcome to our online gathering with Terra Nova Church. My name is Ashley. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm so glad you're here. I love showing up here on the weekends with you guys. I get to wear my slippers and no one even knows it. But most of all, we get to have a sense of community, even online, right here. So thanks for joining. Also, speaking of community, you might have noticed there is a life group button on your Terra Nova app where you can sign up for any kind of life group you can imagine. We are so excited about that. You'll hear lots about it later, but I want to let you know you got to use that Terra Nova app. You're going to find your message notes, you'll find your worship lyrics, you are going to find that giving button, which so many people have been using. We have an extremely generous community, and because of that, we have been able to help so many people in our community around the world, and we continue to do that. If you know anyone in need, let us know. We're so pumped you're here. If you're a guest, thank you for joining and clicking. We hope you enjoy this experience. If you're watching from Village of Hope, hello, we miss you guys. We are just excited for another great weekend at Terra Nova, so let's jump into a time of celebration.
A good weekend to you, Terra Nova. So glad that you're joining us either online. We got a few people in the room as well. It's a beautiful weekend here in Southern California and a great opportunity to remind ourselves right here at the top of the year how good God has been to us. He's been faithful even through all of the challenges of the last year. God is faithful to us, and He is still on the throne, still the King of Glory. So I want to invite you to sing along. The lyrics are on the app. If you're in the room, I want to stand up and let's sing together as we start this week right with some singing. Here we go.
Oh, don't lose heart, oh my soul, don't give up, there is hope, there is always hope. And there is peace in the storm, but don't forget, He is Lord of all. There is a King of glory, there is a God who saves, one who is strong and mighty, freedom is in His name. Open the gates of heaven, lift up a shout of praise, there is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. So lift your eyes, standing on. There is one, only one, where our help comes from. There is a King of glory, there is a God who saves, one who is strong and mighty, freedom is in His name. Open the gates of heaven, lift up a shout of praise, there is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. Oh, the King of glory. Oh, come on in. Nations bow, mountains shake at the sound of just one day. Over all, Jesus reigns. I know. Nations bow, mountains shake at the sound of just one day. Over all, Jesus reigns. I know. strong and mighty, and freedom is in his name. Open the gates of heaven, lift up a shout of praise. There is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. There is a lion roaring, Jesus the King of glory. Could we live like your grace is stronger than all our faults and failures? Could we live like your love is deeper than our hearts could fathom? Could we live like this? Could we live like your name is higher than every other power? Could we live like your ways, wiser than our understanding? Could we live like this? Well, let's sing it again. Could we live? Could we live like this? Our God is, oh he says he is. Jesus, in your name we could change the world. We stand in your love and in your power. Oh, you say we are. Jesus, in your name we could change the world. We believe that your grace stronger than all our faults and failures. We believe that your love is deeper than our hearts could fathom. Could we live like this? Oh, and shining on the world. Could we live like this? Our God is, oh he says he is. Jesus, in your name we could change the world. Oh, we stand in your love, we stand in your love, in your power. Oh, you say we are. Jesus, in your name we could change the world. We could change the world. Jesus, in your name we could change the world. We're saying yes, we're saying yes, Lord, yes, Lord. What else could we say? What else could we say? We're saying yes, Lord, yes, Lord. We're going all the way, we're going all the way. We're gonna live like this, come on. Yes, our God is, oh he says he is. Hey. Yes, our God is, oh he says he is. Yes, our God is, oh he says he is. Jesus, in your name we can change the world. We stand your love, in your power. Oh, you say we are. Jesus, in your name we can change the world. In your name, Jesus, in your name we can change the world. Jesus, in your name we can change the world. And we stand in your love and in your power. And oh, you say we are. We stand in your love and in your power. And oh, you say we are. We stand in your love and in your power. And oh, you say we are. Jesus, in your name we can change the world.
Yeah, we're so grateful for your power and for your love. Great passage in the Bible in Timothy that says that you have not given us a spirit of fear, God, but of power, love, sound thinking. God, so we know that when we feel afraid, that did not come from you. You don't bring fear. You don't hand out fear. You don't give fear. You don't cause fear. But God, your spirit of power and of love and of sound thinking is inside of us. And I just pray that it would rise up in us this weekend, this week. God, let it rise up in our church, in the church, God. Power and love and sound mind, God. Let your spirit quench all fear. So we're no longer slaves to the fear and the anxiety and the pressure. We're in your kingdom now.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name, and I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins, and I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear,
us that much. Thank you for driving all fear from us, God.
Well, welcome. I'm so glad that you joined us today at Terra Nova, whether you're here in person or online. We are just so thankful that you're here. And this last year has really shown us how important community really is. And whether you're a guest or you're here for the first time, we are just so thankful. And so, it's just so important that we are just gathered together and just being a part. So I'm just so thankful that you're here tonight. Welcome, and I am excited for just this new year. It's just going to be, it's just amazing. One of the things we love to do, because in this crazy year, it's been really hard to know and to connect with everybody in 2020, who's connected, who's not. So we love everybody, whether you're here in person or online, to fill out a Connect card, to go to the app, just click in, and you might not have much to say, but just say, I'm here, I'm tuned in, and also it is a great way for us to know what your prayer requests are. So just write down something about what's going on, what we can be praying for you this year as 2021 just kind of launches out. So we'd like everybody just to fill out a Connect card, whether it is on the app or whether it's through Facebook or whether it is through YouTube. Just take just a moment, even now, just to fill that out. And that leads me to the next thing is, this last year, 2020, not only were our doors, open and so many things ministry-wise were able to happen here at Terra Nova, but we were also able to give out thousands and thousands of dollars for people that have been in need here in this community, but also around the world. And that has been so important. And, as we look into 2021, some of those needs are not going away. And what we really would love to do as a church is to continue that ability to give where the need arises. And part of the reason that we can do that is because we have an incredibly generous community, and we've been able to step up and meet so many different needs. So we just thank you so much for your generosity, and just pray that we can continue to do that. And we can give on the app, you can give through the mail, you can give online. So just take that opportunity during the week sometime just to be able to do that and to give. This next season, I am really excited about, because January is the launch to life groups here at Terra Nova, and I am just a real advocate of getting involved in life groups, because it really is where my own personal transformation happened, and so many people I know where transformation has really happened in their life by life groups. So this last season, when you're at your house and you're trying to figure out what to watch, Lyle and I have been watching this series called Alone. And it's about 10 people that they put out alone on an island, but they're all separated. And it's kind of interesting that they can go through starvation, they can be freezing, they can eat mice, they can eat lice. I don't know. It was just really weird. But the one thing that takes them out over and over again is the fact they miss people. They miss their community, and they'll tap out because they just want to be with someone. And life groups, we want everybody just to have a chance to sign up for life groups. Seriously, you can do the Zoom. You don't even have to drive anywhere or live in this community. You can be part of life groups in lots of different ways. We have them all different times, and we have them in person, and we have them online. We'd love everybody just to connect with a life group this next season. We need that. We need that community. And one of the cool things that's going to be going on this spring that we haven't done for quite a while is many of the life groups are going to follow along with our church-wide series called Starting Point. And Starting Point, I've actually had the opportunity to go through it many times with different people. And every single time I go through it, it's like I learn so much, whether it's seekers or whether it's skeptics or whether you've been in church a long time. There is something to learn and grow. And the conversations that happen from the topics that you discover in Starting Point are just absolutely amazing. So whether it's a Starting Point group or whether it's another group that we have, I just want you to just take some time, even today, as early as you can, to really think about what is that group that you're going to be a part of. I will really guarantee it will be a life-changing thing for you. So I just encourage you to sign up today and as soon as possible. And I'm so glad that you're here, and thank you for joining us as we start part 2 of Better For It.
All right. Well, hey, welcome to Terra Nova. Thank you so much for joining us in the room, online. Special shout out, as always, to our friends at Village of Hope. Thanks for watching where you are as we are in part 2 of our series, Better For It. And I got to tell you, in 3 weeks, I'm so excited. We're starting a brand new series called Starting Point. It's actually going to be an 8-week series leading into Easter, beginning on January 30th and 31st. And it is going to be, let me just say, a great series to invite someone to watch with you or to actually maybe even come with you. Maybe people in your life who are asking questions about God and faith and Jesus. Maybe someone in your life who's just begun to ask those questions because of things that are happening in our world, or maybe it's someone who had an experience or an expression of faith of some kind earlier in their lives, but as they enter young adulthood or adulthood, they've begun to question or wonder about that. And this would be such a great series to invite them to. I hope you will. But it's also going to be a great series to take further or deeper in the middle of the week. And so I am so excited that many of our life groups, which launch in February, we're signing up this month, are going to be tracking with this series. And so invite somebody to join you for the series, and then sign up for one of these life groups today. And you can sign up on your app, or you can sign up on our website, so many different ways. But today, as I said, we're in part 2 of this series, Better For It, that we kicked off last week with a statement that's kind of obvious, maybe pretty universal, and that is, I think we all want something better for 2021. Better personally, better nationally, better in our community, better for our families, something better in 2021, because 2020 was difficult. 2020 was hard. But the challenge, we said as we started last week, is that the challenge in hoping for something better in our lives is that we easily fall into a common myth, believing a very common myth that I call the win-then myth. And the win-then myth goes like this: when things get better, then I'll be better. When things change, then I'll change. When my circumstances get better, I will become a better person. When I get married, I won't struggle with, or I won't do all these. I mean, I do them now. I mean, yeah, because I'm not really married. But when I get married, oh no, I'll change all of that. Or when I get married again, then I'll say, when I find the right person and really like the one, then I will change, and things will change, right? When I move out on my own, then I'll become more responsible. When I get more money, then I'll become more generous. It's the win-then myth. But the problem with the win-then myth is that changes in our circumstances never result in changes in our character. It never happens. Listen, we will all be then exactly who we are becoming now. We will be then exactly who we are becoming now, and it is changes in our choices that result in changes in our character every time, which is why we said last week that I think the best way to have a better 2021, and maybe the only legit, like real way to have a better 2021, is for us to become better for 2020. 2020 was a difficult year, a painful year for many of us. In one or more areas of our lives, we experienced serious setbacks, actually, and losses. But we said last week, as we kicked off the series, pain without gain would be a shame, wouldn't it? Pain without gain would be a shame. So as eager as we all are to just say goodbye and good riddance to 2020, this series that we're in now just is our way of pressing pause and asking ourselves, how will we be better for it? How can we be better for what we've gone through in 2020? Because the changes that we all hope to see in 2021, and we do, right? But the changes we all hope to see in 2021 will not make us better people. They will not make us spiritually healthier or physically healthier or financially healthier or relationally healthier. If we are to be better, we will be better because of the choices and responses that we make now in spite of, or perhaps even because of, the circumstances that we have found ourselves in. So to get at this over these few weeks, we're going to be taking an extended look at a case study, if you will, of becoming better through pain and tragedy and crisis and hardship. A famous story found in the Hebrew Scriptures, what we sometimes refer to as the Old Testament, of a man named Joseph of Technicolor Dreamcoat fame. That Joseph, a man whose circumstances were so bad. His circumstances were so horrible that it kind of leaves all of us without it kind of leaves all of us without an excuse or some pushback because we have a worse story. I mean, his circumstances were so bad, but we started last week at the very end of the story with something that Joseph, this character, says. And here's what he says: you intended this for evil against me. And the you that he's talking to, the you in the story, are the people who were responsible for his pain, who were personally responsible for years and years of slavery and imprisonment. And he says, you wanted something very bad, something very evil to happen to me. You intended evil against me, but God intended it for good. But while you were intending and doing evil against me, God was up to something. And he was up to something good in spite of, and this is so profound, and perhaps even because of the evil that you intended against me. And the reason, that's so powerful, right? That is so powerful. The reason why Joseph, is able to say that at the very end of his story is because Joseph had a superpower. Joseph had a superpower, and it's a superpower that you actually have as well. It's a superpower that is an innate ability that will empower you to be better for anything that comes or has come your way. You have a superpower that is an innate ability that empowers you to actually be better and become better for anything at all that actually comes or has come your way in your life. Because here's what we all know. We figured this out, right? We have little or no control over much of what happens to us and around us. Isn't that true? We have little or no control over much of what happens to us and happens around us. I mean, just think about it. A year ago today, social distancing was for extreme introverts. A year ago today, if you were walking down a sidewalk and someone walked out into the street and 10 feet around you, you would have thought they were out of their minds. A year ago, kids were throwing toilet paper into trees. A year ago, if your grandmama found out that you'd skipped church 7 or 8 weeks in a row, let alone 7 or 8 months in a row, she would be convinced that you are going to hell. But so much has changed, right? So much has changed to us and around us. So much has changed that we did not choose for ourselves. We did not choose this pandemic. But, and here's the point, you got to get this, it has left us with choices. We did not choose this pandemic, but it left us with choices, and that's where your superpower comes in. Your superpower, it has the power to turn bad things into good things. It has the power to turn wrong things into right things. It has the power, as in Joseph's story, to thwart the evil intentions, even reverse the evil intentions of evil people in your life. But your superpower is so easy to forget about. It is so easy to forget, so easy to ignore, so easy to lose sight of. And if you ignore your superpower, you will become worse for your pain. You will become a victim of your pain. And in fact, you will often become a perpetuator of that pain in other people's lives. But if you use your superpower, if you engage your superpower, you will become better for it. So, what is it? What is your superpower? Are you ready? Drum roll. Your superpower is your response ability. Like, Oh, man, is that it? I doubt you've ever asked for that in one of those, hey, what would be your favorite superpower kind of open question kind of things like that. It's your response. This is your superpower. It is your ability to respond instead of react. Your superpower is your ability to choose your response in any given moment rather than having your choices and options dictated to you by the circumstances around you, by your pain, by events that you cannot control, and people who intend evil towards you. It is your ability to choose your response, your responsibility, rather than just reacting. Now, here's what you need to know. Reacting is natural. It is the most natural thing in the world. It is understandable. It is frankly expected. But when we react, we become, think about this, a reflection of our circumstances and our environments. We just become a reflection of the things that are happening around us, and we become a reflection often of things we despise and people we do not respect. And when we react, we so often become versions of ourselves that we do not want to be, and we do and say things that we despise in others, but somehow excuse in ourselves. And when we react, rather than responding, rather than reversing the natural course of pain, we become a part of it. But a right response, a thoughtful response, a generous response, a faith-filled, I'm trusting God here response. A right response is transformative. It is transformative. It has the power to change the natural course of that pain, the natural course of those events. And in fact, it has the power to actually redeem pain and suffering. Your superpower is why you can be better for it. In fact, it is how you can be better for it, regardless of what it is. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. It's a big catch. Here's where we get tripped up every time. The transformative response is never the intuitive response. The transformative response is never the intuitive response. The response that has the power to reverse the natural course of things is not the natural response. It doesn't come naturally. The transformative response is never the intuitive response. The natural reaction in any situation always seems totally understandable, perfectly justifiable to react the way that everybody else is reacting, to react the way your family reacts, the way our nation is reacting, the way your particular tribe reacts is understandable. It's justifiable. In fact, it's kind of respectable, especially within your tribe. But you and I are being invited by the Creator God to a different way, a better way. And our history as followers of Jesus, if you're a follower of Jesus, you need to know this. Our history as followers of Jesus is populated by men and women who responded to incredible hardship in their world and in their own personal lives in unexpected, unnatural, transformative ways. And in fact, at the epicenter of it all is a man who surrendered to his enemies, who refused to defend himself, who would not strike back, who refused to even save himself. And as a result, in so doing, he saved others. In fact, he saved us all. He saved you. He saved me. See, never underestimate the power of a faith-filled response. Never underestimate the power of a faith-filled response. And so in the series, as I said, we're taking this extended look at this man who modeled this superpower day in and day out for something around like 20 or maybe more horrible years. Now, we first met him, his name is Joseph again, as a teenager last week, a teenager with big dreams who totally lacked what Daniel Goleman calls emotional intelligence, particularly when it came to his ability to read the room. His social awareness, pretty much non-existent. The favorite son of his father, hated by his 10 older brothers. They eventually attack him. They sell him to slave traders who are passing by the area. They take his precious Technicolor dream coat. They cover it with blood. They carry it back to their father and tell them that Joseph, his favorite son, is dead. And Jacob, his father Jacob, that Joseph is dead. And as their dad, Jacob, grieves like only someone who's lost, a child, can grieve. The brothers stuff all of that, the hate, the resentment they feel, the pain that's been in their lives, the guilt, the shame, the memory, the story of it all. They just stuff that all down deep, never to be spoken of again. Meanwhile, Joseph arrives bound in ropes to Egypt, where he is sold as a slave to Pharaoh's ruthless right-hand military man, the kind of guy who will do anything and kill anyone, no questions asked. And that's where we pick up the story today. Genesis chapter 39 is where we are, and here's how the next chapter begins. Now, Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of Pharaoh's own personal guard, hence the kind of guy who will kill anyone, no questions asked, bought him from the Ishmaelite slave traders who had taken him there. Now, as we just pause there for a second, listen, I think this in some way is where Joseph's story intersects a little bit with ours, because think about this. Nobody is looking for Joseph, and nobody is looking out for Joseph. The only person who cares about him, who loves him in this world, thinks he is dead. And Joseph, for all intents and purposes, looks very, very alone in what he is about to go through. And maybe that's how you feel right now. Maybe that's how you felt for a chunk of this year. It's just, you just feel so alone and paralyzed in what you're going through. And that's how Joseph seems, but just how it seems, because verse 2 says, the Lord was with Joseph. The Lord was with Joseph. Now pause right there, because this poses a problem, I think, for some versions of faith. Maybe your version of faith, maybe the version of faith that you grew up with, and maybe you left faith or have pulled back from faith to some degree because of this issue and this struggle, because there's just so much suffering. There's so much injustice. There's so much pain. There's so much loss in the world or in your family or in your own personal life, and it just doesn't seem to add up. See, because we think, well, if the Lord was with Joseph, come on, his brothers wouldn't have thrown him down into that pit. He would not have been sold into slavery. If the Lord was with Joseph, he would be safe at home enjoying favored son status. If the Lord was with Joseph, Joseph would be protected. Joseph would be safe. Joseph would be healthy and wealthy. #blessed. Because, see, here's how we think. When God is with you, things will work out for you. When God is with you, things work out for you. And if you were raised with that idea, if you were raised with that belief, a belief in a God that we sometimes refer to as bodyguard God who has got your back, who won't let things go badly in your life. And if you were raised with that idea or belief, and you found yourself walking away from that God or pulling away from that God, I just want to say, good, because that God doesn't exist. You quit believing in a God who never existed. And that's actually a good thing. And listen, Christians, and let me say even maybe more specifically, followers of Jesus have never believed in bodyguard God, the God who, when he's with you, things just magically work out for you. Christians and followers of Jesus have never believed in that. Instead, what we see in men and women of faith throughout Scripture, and frankly throughout history, is men and women who endured, in fact, not just endured, shined in the midst of great adversity and hardship, horrible things, discovering that God was actually with them in it. The Lord was with Joseph, but luck was not with Joseph. Fortune was not with Joseph. Justice was not with Joseph. Fairness was not with Joseph. And yet, Joseph, like you, had a superpower. He had the ability to respond rather than react. And so he chose to respond as if God was with him. And so the story continues. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, but don't read too much of that into that. So that he prospered and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. Well, that doesn't sound like my idea of prospering. What? And when his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, in other words, Potiphar noticed that whatever Joseph worked hard at, worked out really well. I mean, Joseph apparently worked with excellence so that everything he touched ended up being successful. he made things better. He made things better around him because he did everything he could because he was responsible, because he was choosing his response. And he responded not as a victim. He responded not as someone who was sold into slavery, didn't belong there, everything's going wrong in his life. Instead, he responded as someone who was confident that God was with him. And consequently, even though he's in circumstances up to his eyeballs, not of his choosing, consequently, Joseph found favor in his eyes, in Potiphar's eyes, and he became Potiphar's personal attendant, like his personal executive assistant. And Potiphar put him in charge of his entire household and entrusted to him the care of everything he owned, which sounds really good until you remember, wait a minute, Joseph is one of the things Potiphar owns. Wait, Joseph is a slave in this story. And Joseph has gone, think about this. Joseph has gone in a fairly short period of time from favorite son of a free man to favored slave of a foreign master. And in the ancient world, you just got to know, in the ancient world, the common assumption of everyone who knew this story, the common assumption would be, if that is what had happened to a person's life, then whatever gods you were serving or whatever gods you were worshiping or choosing or sacrificing to, you had either picked the wrong gods or those gods were not happy with you. And so now I'm Joseph. I'm running the show for a foreign master. And then and then the story goes, from the time he put him in charge of his household and all of that he owned, the Lord blessed. Like, wait, I know this one. Okay, I know this one, all right? So the Lord blessed Joseph, right? I mean, right? Because if God is with Joseph, and Joseph is in this difficult, horrible situation, but he's doing the right thing, he's making the right choice, he's responding as if God is with him, then the person who deserves to be blessed in the story is Joseph. I mean, come on, right? And the Lord blessed, the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph? Like, where is the justice in that? Am I right? God was with Joseph, so God blessed Potiphar? Are you kidding me? In fact, the story goes on. He didn't just bless him. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had. He was crazy blessed. He was blessed in his house. He was blessed in his field. And yet, Joseph continued to do the unexpected. He continued to do the unnatural thing. And he continued to respond as if God was with him. It is his superpower. In fact, Joseph responded as if God was with him when it looked like God had abandoned him. Joseph responded as if God was right there with him when it would look to anyone paying attention that God, whatever God he served, had abandoned him. And that to me is amazing. And part of what's amazing to me, so amazing about this, is that unlike us, Joseph had no real reason to believe that God was with him. I mean, think about it. He has no Bible. Torah hasn't even been written yet. He is centuries before Moses. There are no miracles in his story, no miracles in his life. There's no Jesus. There's no angels appearing to him in dreams and talking to him that everything will be okay. In fact, his whole faith, his understanding, his whole idea of God is based solely on the stories of his childhood, the stories of his great-grandfather Abraham, his grandfather Isaac, his father Jacob, and on some dreams that he had as a teenager that must by now seem like a sick joke, like a total farce. And yet he decided to respond as if God was with him right there, even when it looked like God had abandoned him, which brings me to this question. And it's a question that we're just kind of work throughout the next few weeks. This is just kind of a part of the substructure of this whole series. And it's this question right here. How would someone in your circumstances respond if they were confident that God was with them? How would someone, not you, by the way, not you, but someone else who's in your circumstances, your same circumstances, how would they respond? I'm not asking you to do it. I'm not asking you to do anything differently. I'm certainly not asking you to respond yourself as if you were confident that God might be with you. I'm just asking you to ask the question. Just ask the question. Think about the answer. How would someone in your circumstances, the struggles that you are facing and have been facing maybe over the last few months or perhaps over the last few years, how would someone with your job situation, how would someone with your financial struggles, how would someone with your family life and things that are happening in your relational spheres, how would someone with the losses that you have endured recently, how would they respond if they were absolutely convinced that God was with them in it? How would someone in your circumstance respond if they believed that God was with them and that God was up to something? That there was more to the story than met their eyes, that the story wasn't over yet. They were in a chapter of it, but God was writing another chapter at the time. And like, how would that person respond? And here's why, because it just might be that there's more to your story than meets the eye. It just might be that there's more to your story than meets the eye, and your answer to this question is your invitation into that story. It is your invitation to exercise your superpower and to choose your response rather than to just react to the environment and circumstances around you. And listen, as I said before, never underestimate the power of a faith-filled response. Never underestimate the power of that. Well, I don't want to look stupid and I don't want to be taken advantage of. I sure don't want to be taken. Never underestimate the power of a faith-filled response. Well, what if I do the right thing and then they don't and then things go really wrong? Never underestimate the power of a faith-filled response. Well, seriously, I cannot possibly fathom in the natural course of things how that would ever make any difference. Never underestimate the power, the transformative power of a faith-filled response. Because like Joseph, you have no idea. We have no idea what hangs in the balance. We have no idea who hangs in the balance of our decision to respond faithfully rather than react to circumstances that we did not choose and probably do not deserve. Now, Joseph, at this point, you might imagine, because of the decisions he's making, that the story starts to get a little better for him. It doesn't. So here's what happens next. Now, Joseph was well built and handsome. Well, that's nice. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of him. And said, "Come to bed with me." Now, understand, this was not a request. This was an order. She doesn't need to seduce him. He's her property. And she is telling him to come to bed with her. And Joseph finds himself in a no-win situation. Think about it. There is no win in this situation. His life just basically ended. Because if he says no to her, by the way, nobody says no to her. Potiphar is afraid to say no to her. If he says no to her, things will turn out very badly for him. But if he says yes, and Potiphar finds out, and of course Potiphar will find out because secrets seep. They always seep. And if he says yes and Potiphar finds out, things are going to turn very badly for him because Potiphar kills people for a living. Hello. And he is in a no-win situation. And we might begin to think, well, apparently, see, this is how we would think, all of this responding instead of reacting, and all of this choosing to respond as if God was with me, clearly that is not working out for me at all. And like us, Joseph might be tempted to think, why care and why even try? Why care and why even try? What is the virtue in trying to do the right thing when it always turns up wrong? And yet, Joseph once again engages his superpower, and he refused. And he refused. And listen to his explanation to what he told Potiphar's wife. He refused, and he said this to her: "With me in charge, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am, and my master has withheld nothing from me except you. Because, by the way, you are his wife." But then comes the best part, and I think it is the unexpected part, and frankly, the surprising part of his explanation. And then he asked this question: "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against, God? Really, Joseph? Wait, God, you're worried? You're worried about sinning against God? Joseph, are we talking about the same God here? Are we even talking about the same God? Are we talking about, okay, this is the God, the one who's responsible for your impressive resume? You remember Joseph's resume from last week? Joseph Jacobson, right? Kidnapped once, sold twice, born the favorite son of a free man, now the favored slave of a foreign master. That God, Joseph, that's the one you don't want to sit. The God who hasn't done anything for you lately and instead blesses everybody else. You don't want to sin against God? Joseph, really? And Potiphar's wife is relentless. She continues after him day after day, and Joseph continues to refuse or to even, get this, be with her, to even be around her. And he reaches a point fairly early in where he just refuses to place himself in the same environment. This is genius, by the way, because we tend to think, well, I'll just exercise, I'll just say no. You know, I can face the temptation and I'll just say no. And Joseph's smarter than that. He goes, I don't even want to be in the situation where I have to say no. I'm not going to walk down that street. I'm not going to go into that store. I'm not going to place myself in the situation where I'm going to be strong in my will. I'm just going to avoid being around her entirely. And of course, Potiphar's wife is offended and she is shamed, and eventually she accuses Joseph of doing the very thing that he has avoided so arduously to do, and she ends up telling Potiphar, her husband, that he attempted to attack her. And when his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me," he burned with anger. And Potiphar is not the kind of guy that you want to upset. He burned with anger, and Joseph's master took him and put him in prison. In prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. And there he will sit. There he will sit. Now, I know that this year has been tough for everybody. It's been horribly difficult for many. I know that things that have happened to you were unfair or unjust and most likely undeserved. But think about this. Think about this. Joseph will now pay for a crime he refused to commit because he refused to commit it. Joseph will now pay for a sin, a wrongdoing that he avoided at all costs because he avoided doing it. And now he gets to update his resume. Joseph Jacobson, kidnapped once, sold twice, framed, imprisoned. And yet, even as bad things continue to happen to him, while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. And Joseph continues to exercise his superpower and to be responsible, to choose his responses in unexpected, unnatural, transformative ways to do the next right thing, even though there seemed to be no visible, tangible, meaningful benefit to doing the right thing whatsoever. He just kept doing it. Now, we'll pick up the story right there next week. It just gets better and better. But in the meantime, this week, I want us all to wrestle with this question. This is kind of just the takeaway for this week. In fact, you might want to write this question down. You might want to post it somewhere. You might want to bring it to mind again and again throughout the weekend. In fact, you might even want to bring scenarios to mind in which you have not responded very well or reacted very well in recent weeks or recent days. You might want to bring those scenarios to mind and just ask yourself this question: how would someone in my circumstances respond? How would somebody in my circumstances respond if they actually had such a superpower? I'm not sure I do, but if somebody had such a superpower and if they could choose their response instead of reacting, instead of just being a reflection of their environment and people around them in that moment, how would someone with that superpower in my circumstances respond if they were confident that God was with them right there? How would someone respond if they believed in your circumstances, in my circumstances, that God was intending something good? In spite of, and maybe even because of the things that were happening in my life, even while things were looking so bad, how would someone in my circumstances, how would I respond if I believed that God was up to something good and that something actually just might hinge on my response? that what God is up to just might hinge on my decision not to react and not to reflect my environment, but to respond as if God is with me. And as you reflect on that question, again, I'm not asking you to do anything differently. I'm not even asking you to respond that way. But as you reflect on that question, here's the thing. Your answer to it, the answer that comes to your mind, is your invitation to engage your superpower, your responsibility, and your choice to respond rather than react. My choice to respond intentionally and in a faith-filled God is with me kind of way. It is our way forward. It is our way forward. Act on it, continue to act on it, and you will emerge through it better for it. Never underestimate the transformative power of a faith-filled response in the moment. Because like Joseph, you have a superpower. You have a superpower. Use it. And if you do, you will be better for it. You will be better for it. The people around you will be better for it. And who knows, the world might actually be better for it too. Now, we'll pick up the story right there next week. Do not miss part 3 of our series, Better For It. Let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for your redemptive, transformative response to us, to all that was wrong with us, to all that was messed up in us, and to all that we were messing up. Your response was so powerful, so humble, so vulnerable, so transformative in our lives. We want to embrace that. We want to embrace that in our lives today. But more than that, we want to be like that. We want to follow that model. We want to be like you, Heavenly Father. So I just pray for all of us. As we begin to ask ourselves that question, we find ourselves in situations this week and begin to say, how would someone respond in this situation if they believed God was with them? God, I just pray that you will bring those thoughts to mind and that you will give us your grace as we lean into this superpower that you've already given us to choose our response rather than react. And we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, hey, before you tune out, thanks so much again for being here with us. Please take a moment before you leave and fill out that Connect card that's either on your phone, on your app, or on the website. If you're watching on a computer, please let us know how you're doing, how we can pray for you. If there's anything going on in your life or in someone's life that you know about, that we can serve you and come alongside you, please let us know about that as well. And by the way, while you're on your app, take a second and sign up for life groups. Just click that link. It'll take you to a page that gives you the options to look through either in-person or Zoom groups or just day of the week. And so tune in, click that either on the computer or on your app and sign up for a group today. And of course, a number of those groups are doing our Starting Point series study, and you can follow along. You can see on your app or on the website which groups are doing that. Join one of them, invite some people to join it with you. And then, of course, while you're online or on the app is probably the easiest way to give and to set up recurring giving, and so we invite you to do that. If you don't have the app, you got to download the app. In fact, in the last week or so, 75 more people downloaded the app so that they could join us in our 31 days of prayer, and that would be a great way for you to do that with us as well and walk through this month with us. And then we'll see you back next week for part 3. I promise you will be better for it. See you next week. Thanks for being here.